Friends, in today's video, we're sharing a truly unbelievable and emotional story about a woman and her mysterious connection with her dog. Why did her husband begin to suspect their loyal pet? And why was the dog constantly licking the same spot on her lower abdomen? What they eventually discovered will leave you shocked and maybe even bring tears to your eyes. Make sure to watch the video all the way till the end to uncover the full truth. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our powerful stories. Now let's begin this incredible journey. James Monroe was the kind of man who believed in order. Routine was his anchor. Every weekday he took the 8:15 a.m. train from Maplewood, New Jersey into Manhattan, where he worked as a senior analyst at a digital marketing firm. He wore polished brown shoes, tucked shirts, and always checked the weather twice, once before his shower and once right before stepping out. It wasn't just habit, it was control. And James liked control. His wife Emily, on the other hand, lived by a different rhythm. She was more intuitive, quieter, the kind of woman who could sit in the same chair for hours with a book and not say a word. She worked from home as a freelance editor, novels mostly, and often claimed she preferred fictional characters to real people. That wasn't to say she was cold. In fact, Emily was deeply affectionate, with one living being in particular, their golden retriever, Max. Max wasn't just a dog. From the moment they adopted him from the local shelter 2 years ago, he became an inseparable part of Emily's existence. It was endearing at first. Max would lie at her feet while she worked, curl beside her during naps, and perch himself outside the bathroom door when she showered, as if to guard her. James used to joke that Max was her furry shadow. But lately, the joke wasn't funny anymore. It started with small things. James began noticing that every time he left for work, Emily would immediately retreat into their bedroom with Max. The door would quietly close, and the house would fall into a heavy silence. No TV, no podcast, not even the sound of a turning page. Just the hush of a sealed room. At first he shrugged it off. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe she needed quiet. But it kept happening. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every time he left the house, the exact same pattern. And always, Max at her heels. One afternoon, everything changed. It was a rainy Thursday in late October. The city was blanketed in gray, and James's office suffered a total system failure. They were told to head home early. For once, the city's usual chaos worked in his favor. He caught the 2:40 train and was home by 3:15. He didn't text Emily. He wanted to surprise her. He brought her favorite cinnamon latte and quietly entered the house, careful not to slam the front door. But something felt off. The air felt heavier. The silence, too complete. He set the coffee on the kitchen island, kicked off his shoes, and made his way upstairs. The bedroom door was closed. He hesitated for a moment. Something about the stillness felt unnatural. Slowly he turned the knob and pushed the door open an inch, then a few more. What he saw stopped his breath cold. The room was dim, curtains drawn just enough to let in a thread of silver afternoon light. Emily was lying on her side, eyes closed, her shirt rolled up to just below her ribs. Her expression was peaceful, distant, and Max was perched beside her on the bed, hunched forward, methodically, licking the lower part of her exposed stomach, over and over, slowly, almost reverently. James froze. He felt his heart slam against his ribs. Not from anger, but from confusion, from the visceral wrongness of the scene. There was no noise, only the slick, repetitive sound of the dog's tongue, and the faint sound of his own shallow breathing. Then Emily opened her eyes. She didn't flinch, didn't gasp. She just looked at him calmly, like she had been expecting him all along. "I'm just resting," she said softly, voice barely above a whisper. "Max does this sometimes. It helps me relax." James couldn't respond. He took a slow step back, then another. Gently pulled the door shut. He descended the stairs like a ghost. The rest of the day passed in a blur. The coffee went untouched. He didn't confront her, didn't mention what he saw. His brain looped the image like a broken reel. The dim light, her bare skin, Max's slow, wet motion, the intimacy of it, the calm on her face. That night he lay beside her in bed, stiff as stone. She fell asleep within minutes. Max curled up at her hip. James stared at the ceiling, wide-eyed. Over the next few days, James tried to rationalize what he had seen. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe Max was responding to a scent. Maybe Emily had some kind of rash or irritation. But the explanations didn't soothe the growing knot in his chest, especially because the behavior didn't stop. It became more obvious. Max wouldn't leave Emily's side, ever. If she went to the kitchen, he followed, brushing past James like he wasn't even there. If she sat on the couch, he curled up with his head in her lap. If she got up to pee in the middle of the night, Max was at her feet instantly. Tail twitching, muscles alert. James tried to keep things light. Over dinner, he said, "You know, I think Max might actually be your bodyguard now. I should probably carry ID to enter our bedroom." Emily didn't laugh. She didn't even look up. "He's sensitive," she murmured, scooping mashed potatoes onto her plate. "Dogs pick up on things, energy, emotions." "Sure," James said, forcing a smile. "But it's like he's glued to you." "He's always been this way. Maybe you're just noticing it more now." But James was noticing something else too. Max avoided him. When James entered a room and Emily wasn't present, Max stayed clear. He wouldn't approach for pets or treats, wouldn't wag his tail, wouldn't even make eye contact. One morning, James woke before sunrise and tiptoed out of the bedroom. As he passed the hallway near Emily's office, he noticed the door slightly ajar. Inside, Max sat rigidly next to her reading chair, perfectly still, eyes fixed on the door, as if waiting for her to enter. She was still asleep in the bedroom. Max was guarding a memory. That evening, James suggested a weekend trip to the Catskills. "No?" Emily said simply. He raised an eyebrow. "No, I'm not leaving Max. We can take him to my sister's. She loves..." "No." Her voice was sharper this time. "He gets sick when I leave. Last time he didn't eat for 2 days. He vomited at night." James stared at her. "Emily, he's a dog. And he's family." That night, Max slept in James's spot again. Emily didn't even comment when he entered the room. She just kept watching her show, Max's head resting against her belly, like it had claimed that space. James didn't argue. He just lay down on the edge of the bed as far away as he could. But sometime past midnight, a soft noise pulled him from half sleep. He turned. There it was again. Max, licking her bare stomach. The same spot, the same pattern, slow, tender, deliberate. James stared, paralyzed. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. James didn't say a word the next morning. He stood at the kitchen sink for nearly 20 minutes, staring blankly out the window at the maple tree in their backyard as the coffee slowly brewed behind him. Emily sat at the table with Max curled under her legs, one hand absent-mindedly stroking his head, her eyes locked on her phone screen. There was no tension in her expression, no sign that she was aware of the storm raging inside her husband. James finally turned around, placed a steaming cup in front of her, and forced a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You didn't sleep well," Emily said flatly without looking up. "No," James replied. You? I slept fine. And that was it. Nothing else. No mention of the fact that her shirt had been halfway up her body at 3 a.m., or that their dog had been licking her stomach like it was some kind of sacred ritual. James couldn't take it anymore. That night after Emily had gone to bed, he poured himself a glass of bourbon and sat alone in the living room with Max's baby photos on his phone. He remembered the day they adopted him. Emily had insisted on choosing the sheathed one from the litter. The golden retriever pup that didn't bark or jump or tug. He's got a quiet soul, she had said. Back then, James had rolled his eyes, but now, those words clung to his memory like static. Max had always been close to Emily, but now it felt obsessive, possessive, protective, or something else. Over the next few days, James watched, and the more he watched, the worse it got. Max refused to eat unless Emily was in the room. He waited outside the bathroom door, whining if she took too long. If Emily so much as shifted her weight on the couch, Max would lift his head and adjust himself to be closer. Almost like he was tuned into her on a molecular level. James started tracking it. Every day, every hour. One night he found Max standing perfectly still in the hallway, outside the bedroom, just standing, staring, like a sentinel on duty. James crouched. Max, hey buddy. The dog didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at him with eyes that didn't feel like a dog's eyes anymore. There was a weight in that gaze, a depth that made James's skin crawl. He stood up and went back to bed without saying anything. But he didn't sleep that night either. A week passed, then another. James's work suffered. He missed deadlines, miscalculated figures, forgot calls. His co-workers noticed. So did his manager. Take some time, they said. Clear your head. So James did. He stayed home the next 2 days pretending to relax, but instead he observed. On the second morning, James quietly walked past Emily's office around 6:45 a.m. and noticed the door open slightly. Max was inside, sitting in the exact spot where Emily always read. She was still asleep upstairs, yet Max sat alert and unmoving, like he was remembering her scent, her presence, as if the memory itself was enough to keep him waiting. That evening, James made up his mind. They were sitting at the dining table eating leftover pasta. The silence between them had stretched so long it had grown roots. Max lay under the table, of course, his head resting lightly on Emily's feet. James set down his fork. We need to talk about Max. Emily froze mid-bite. The fork paused inches from her mouth. What about him? This obsession, it's not normal, Em. Her brows furrowed. He follows you everywhere. He doesn't eat without you. He stares at you constantly, and he's licking you. Emily's jaw tightened. He's affectionate, that's all. Number, that's not all, James replied, voice steady but firmer. I saw it. Multiple times. Same spot, same motion. The way he lies with his head on your stomach like he owns that part of you. Emily's face hardened. You're being ridiculous. I don't think so, James said. I think something's off. Deeply off. With him, with you, with everything. Emily dropped her fork. You're jealous of a dog. James blinked. What? You're jealous because Max loves me, because I love him, because maybe you don't know how to be that kind of presence for someone. Jesus, Emily. You can't stand that I feel safe with him, that he knows when I'm sad, or tired, or hurting, and instead of asking why, instead of wondering what's wrong, you point fingers at a creature that has never done anything but love. James slammed his hands on the table. Max jumped. Love? Is that what you call it? Lying on top of you, licking your stomach like he's what, James? Emily shot back, eyes blazing. James didn't finish the sentence. He couldn't. Because even in his fury, his confusion, his unease, he wasn't entirely sure what he was accusing. There was a beat of silence. Then Emily stood. If you can't handle being second to a dog, that's your insecurity. But don't drag Max into your paranoia. She turned and walked away. Max followed. James stared at the now empty dining table, heart pounding. That night, while Emily slept, James didn't. He sat on the couch in the dark, scrolling through articles, forums, research papers, dogs sensing illness, pets detecting cancer, canine intuition. Dozens of articles popped up, some legitimate, some laughable, but one phrase appeared again and again. Dogs have an acute sense of smell capable of detecting changes in human biochemistry. That was when James remembered something the vet once said. If your dog is acting out of the ordinary, don't ignore it. Sometimes they know something we don't. By sunrise, James had made up his mind. He walked into the guest room, cleared out the space, and set up a soft bed, water bowl, food, and toys. It was quiet, calm, separate. When Emily came down for breakfast, he told her gently but firmly, Max needs space. Starting today, he'll sleep in here. Her expression shattered. You're punishing him. Number, I'm protecting you. She didn't answer. She just stood there, mouth trembling. James reached for Max's leash. The dog didn't resist, but his eyes never left Emily as James guided him into the room. That night, for the first time in nearly 2 years, Max slept alone, and the house felt hollow in a way James couldn't explain. But it was only the beginning, because what started as a separation would soon uncover a truth neither of them were prepared for. The air in the house had shifted. The quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It was loaded, tense. Emily moved through the days like a ghost, eating less, speaking even less. And Max, once vibrant and responsive, now lay motionless in the guest room. His body curled tightly, like he was trying to disappear into himself. At first, James thought it was just adjustment. Then, the unease returned. Max stopped eating altogether. He didn't touch his toys. When James opened the door to take him out for a walk, Max would just stare at the hallway with lifeless eyes, barely lifting his head. His fur lost its shine, his ribs began to show, and his eyes, those eyes that once followed Emily like a magnet, now looked completely hollow. James's heart began to twist in a way he couldn't ignore. He brought special food, nothing. He tried treats. Max didn't react. One night, James sat on the floor next to him for over an hour, whispering apologies he didn't know how to say before. But Max simply blinked slowly and turned his head toward the bedroom, toward Emily. Then came the night James heard it, a soft thump. He got up, walked to the guest room, and opened the door. Max lay in the same position, but breathing hard, chest rising and falling rapidly, almost ragged. When James touched him, he was ice cold. His gums were pale. His legs twitched weakly. Panic rushed in like a flood. James scooped the dog into his arms and drove to the emergency animal clinic. Max didn't resist. He just lay there limp, like a threadbare blanket in James's lap. The smell of antiseptic hit James as he burst into the vet's office, shouting for help. A technician ran forward. They took Max from him and rushed him into the back without even asking for paperwork. James waited in the hard plastic chair with his head in his hands, heart pounding. He didn't even realize he was crying until a nurse handed him a tissue. An hour later, the vet came out. Tired eyes, blue scrubs stained with fur. "We stabilized him," she said softly. "He was severely dehydrated and emotionally stressed." "Emotionally?" James asked, voice hoarse. The vet nodded. "Animals form intense emotional bonds. break that pattern, and some dog shut down completely. James felt the guilt hit like a freight train, but she continued. We need to talk about something else. Has Max been licking a particular part of Emily's body regularly? James blinked. Yes. Her lower abdomen. Why? The vet sighed. Dogs have been known to detect illness, certain cancers, changes in scent, body chemistry. It's rare, but not impossible. James's skin went cold. You should encourage your wife to get checked, especially the exact area. He didn't sleep that night. He didn't even go home. He sat in his car in the clinic parking lot until morning, watching the sun rise through the windshield, praying that all of this wasn't leading where he feared. That afternoon, he told Emily everything, about Max, about the vet's warning, about his guilt. Emily didn't say anything for a long time. She just sat there, processing. Then, without a word, she got up, grabbed her coat, and left the house. She didn't say where she was going, but James knew. 3 days passed. Emily underwent blood work, ultrasounds, and a CT scan. And then came the call. James watched from across the room as Emily answered, listened, and slowly sat down. Her hand trembled slightly as she ended the call and turned to him. There's a mass, she said. On my ovary. Small. But it's there. James didn't breathe. They think we caught it early. Surgery. Maybe some chemo. They're hopeful. The words didn't feel real. But Max's behavior, his insistence, suddenly snapped into perfect clarity. That night, Emily went to the clinic alone. She sat with Max in the dimly lit recovery room, the fluorescent bulbs humming above her. The moment he saw her, his ears perked, tail twitching. He struggled to lift his head, and she rushed to his side. Hey, buddy, she whispered, stroking his ears. You were right. You were trying to tell me. Max licked her hand once, then rested his head against her arm. The next morning she brought him home. Emily and Max lay on the couch together, his head on her lap, her fingers tracing patterns through his fur. James sat nearby, silent, humbled. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Emily prepared herself, emotionally, physically, mentally. And when the day came, she went in with a strange serenity, because she knew somehow she'd already been warned, by the most loyal soul she knew. The operation was successful. The tumor was removed. Margins were clean. Doctors were optimistic. Emily recovered slowly but steadily, with James at her side and Max never more than a few feet away. On the day she returned home, Max greeted her not with frantic joy, but with gentle presence. He walked up to her slowly, nose to belly. One last time, as if double-checking. Then, satisfied, he curled at her feet, and finally slept, really slept, not alert, not waiting, just peaceful. James watched them from the doorway, heart swollen. He realized now that Max hadn't been invading his place in the marriage. He'd been protecting it, holding it together when James couldn't, warning them both of something they hadn't wanted to see. He walked over, sat beside them, and placed his hand on Max's back. "Thank you," he whispered. No one spoke again that night. They didn't need to, because sometimes love doesn't need words. Sometimes love comes on 4 legs with fur and a nose sharper than any doctor's. And sometimes that love saves a life. Friends, thank you so much for staying with us till the very end of this emotional journey. If the story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss another heart-touching story like this. We'll see you in the next video, inshallah. May Allah bless you